CityCast Pittsburgh is coming to you today, care of the Pittsburgh Opera, presenting Puccini's enduring tale of love and heartbreak, Madama Butterfly. In 4 special performances, March 22nd through the 30th, you can experience the tragic love story of Cho-Cho-san and Lieutenant Pinkerton like never before. The images, Jens, that the opera is sharing from this really are so vibrant and beautiful. And of course, it's all paired with Puccini's stunning music. Learn more at pittsburghopera.org/citycast. Pittsburgh Opera, where can we take you?
Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, our public transit system is going to be in bad shape if we don't get more state funding, like no more buses after 11 p.m. bad. We've got some updates on your primary ballot, and there's about to be a Dollywood-Kennywood crossover, kind of. We're rounding up the biggest stories of the week. It's Friday, March 21st. I'm Mallory Falk, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with CityCast Sophia Lo. Hey, Sophia.
Hey, Mallory.
So if you listen regularly to our Friday News Roundup, we usually start the show out with some trivia, but we're trying something a little different. We're going to move it a little later in the show so that we can just dive straight into the big news of the week. So if you love our trivia, you love playing along, stick around. You will hear it, just not right up top.
Yeah, and we will start revealing the answer for everyone, so that's really exciting. But the news that we're starting off with this week, PRT released its proposed cuts. We talked about this earlier this week, about how they're facing this huge deficit. And yesterday they shared, their plans for dealing with it. Mallory, you watched this board meeting on Thursday. I did not. So, tell me what's going to happen. I rely on the bus a lot. I don't have a car. My partner does. But I use it a lot to get around. I'm very scared.
So if PRT doesn't get more money from the state, they're planning to reduce service by 35%.
Whoa. 1/3. That's a lot. A lot. How do you decide which routes are going to get cut? And they were doing this whole bus line redesign thing. I'm still so mad that they decided to roll that out and then I assume taking some of that back now.
Yeah, and backing up for just a second here, this is happening because PRT is going to have a $100 million deficit next year, and that deficit is just going to keep on getting worse over time unless the state does something. We talked about this on Wednesday with reporter Adam Smeltz, who had a great story in Public Source, so definitely go back and listen if you missed it. We'll drop a link in our show notes. He talked about how we got here, and the very short version is that ridership is down, costs are up, and state funding hasn't kept up with the rise in costs. So this proposal that came out yesterday, it's what PRT says they'll have to do if the state doesn't increase our funding by $117 million.
Okay, but my question remains, how are they going to decide what routes they're going to cut?
I mean, first of all, PRT has 100 different routes and 98 of them are going to be affected in some way.
So basically all.
Basically all. It's just a question of whether they're going to be cut altogether or they're going to be reduced. So meaning running less frequently, or maybe the line gets shortened. They really wanted to try to preserve service in what they're calling the top 25% of their equity communities. So places where people are really, really reliant on service.
That makes sense. Yeah.
They couldn't do that. They couldn't make the budget work. So they're only able to preserve the top 10%. So
okay, I thought this was going to be a little bit of good news, but I guess it's just still bad.
Yeah, still pretty bad, but just in terms of how they thought about what cuts to make. So 41 routes would get cut completely, and then a bunch of others will get reduced, won't run as frequently, or the route could get shortened. One of the ones that's getting shortened is the 28X airport flyer. So it would only go to Carnegie Station. It wouldn't go downtown. It wouldn't go to Oakland. Riders would have to transfer. And that's what could happen on a bunch of these lines, that some of that line might still exist, but transfers are going to be a lot more frequent.
That seems like a bad move. I assume that a lot of students are taking the bus to the airport. And also downtown is at least, well, for now, a big transfer hub. Like, people can easily get there.
Yeah, I mean, the ride to the airport is so long as it is, and adding even more transfers in going to make it a nightmare. Another big change is that there wouldn't be any more bus service after 11 p.m. Like across the board, after 11, you are on your own.
That is messed up and also not very safe. I'm thinking about like people who are staying out late, maybe drinking. Like, I guess you could call it Uber, but also like you never know the availability, how much it's going to cost. This sucks.
Yeah, Sophia, unfortunately, there's not a lot of good news for you here. And at this board meeting, officials at PRT were saying like ridership does really drop off after 11 p.m. The buses aren't used as much. But the people who do take the bus during that time, I mean, Sophia, you mentioned people who are out late who've been drinking, but also it's just a lot of essential workers like service and security workers that are working overnight shifts, hospital workers. They were described as like a critical core of our population. So even if not a ton of people are on the bus at that time, it's people doing really, really important work that they need to get to.
Exactly. And people build their routines around the bus. Like, I picked where I would live based on, how much service I'd be getting. And I have some routes that, multiple routes take me downtown. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if I lost one. But like a lot of people are making decisions based on public transit and what those schedules look like, where those routes are.
Yeah, Sophia, you mentioned that where you live, you kind of have multiple different routes to take, multiple different options to get around. And that's one of the things PRT really looked at was like, if you live somewhere where there are multiple options to get around, like cutting some of those sort of like duplicate routes.
Okay, that duplicate route thing sucks for me personally, but it makes sense. Are there any spots that are just going to lose service entirely?
Yeah, so 3 neighborhoods in Pittsburgh and a bunch of municipalities, they just like straight up aren't going to have public transit anymore if this goes into effect. So in the city, those neighborhoods are Banksville, Ridgemont, and Swiss Helm Park. And outside the city, it's places like Benavin, East McKeesport, Pitcairn, like places that just aren't going to have transit. And another thing they pointed out is there are some like schools and hospitals that also are going to lose service, like fully lose service, like St. Clair Hospital, a bunch of K-12 schools, the CCAC Campus West. So I feel like these words like dire, devastating come up over and over because these are really dire, devastating cuts.
Right.
Another thing they pointed to was that the Access, which is the paratransit service here, like provides service to seniors and people with disabilities, that's also going to have service cuts and fare increases. So some of our most vulnerable community members are going to have a harder time accessing public transit too.
I'm sure there's more. Keep giving it to me.
Yeah. So the other thing PRT pointed to is they won't be able to provide extra service for special events. This was like
wait. What does that mean? What is a special event?
So this was actually the slide during the presentation where I felt like if you were watching and you're someone who doesn't rely on public transportation, you think this isn't really going to affect your life, this is where you might have taken notice because the slide had phrases like Steelers games, Kenny Chesney concert,
okay.
Taylor Swift concert. Yeah. So, during these like huge events, because there is so much extra traffic, PRT usually provides extra service. They're not going to be able to do that anymore. So they said, traffic during game days, parades, marathons, all of that is going to get worse. And it also means that when we host the NFL draft next year, and like 500,000 people are expected to come into the city, there's not going to be extra transit.
I am renting out my parking spot to someone, I think, because you can get downtown. Okay, I'm going to make bank on that, I guess, now.
Oh, now I'm disappointed that I have street parking only.
Okay, you kind of hinted at fare increases. I know that's something Adam said could happen. Do we have a number? Because right now, rides are $2.75, and then you get free transfers for 3 hours.
Yeah, so the base price is going to go up to $3, which is a 9% increase. Sophia, what do you think like our current base fare, how does it compare to the rest of the country?
I think like our base fare is kind of high, but I think our transfer fare is pretty good. Well, our transfer fare is $0, so you get 3 hours to take as many transfers as you want. Because I remember when I was in Chicago, like sometimes you have to pay for a transfer. I'm not like as familiar with their rules, and their window for unpaid transfers was a little smaller. It was like 2 hours. And then there's also like a cap on how many transfers are free.
Oh, that's interesting because I didn't really take the transfer policy into account because, yeah, at this presentation, PRT was saying that right now our base price for transit is the 10th most expensive in the country. And if it gets bumped up to this $3 a ride, it'll be the 5th most expensive fare in the country. But yeah, maybe there's more nuance to that once you factor in things like the transfer rate.
I mean, if you're taking the bus every single day, those 25 cents do add up, and it's just annoying. Like, if service is being cut, I also imagine certain transfers are going to be harder to catch and everything. So I'm sure overall people are going to be spending more.
Yeah. So, during this presentation, Amy Silberman, she's the chief development officer at PRT, and she just kind of summed up what it's going to look like, what it's going to be like here if the state doesn't come through with more funding and these cuts have to go into effect.
So we are losing late evening service. We are requiring people to transfer or take multiple trips if they have no other way to get around. We are requiring longer travel times, whether it's because you now have to transfer or now your bus only comes every hour and you just have to work your schedule and your day around those much larger spread apart trips. We will certainly have more bus and train overcrowding.
Honestly, I have been super resistant to getting a bike because I just don't want to bike hills, pay for an e-bike. I like getting on the bus and not having to think about directions. This might be the tipping point for me personally.
Well, and this is something PRT is nervous about. They believe that all of these changes would lead to a 20% reduction in ridership.
And that's even less money for them because no one's paying for fares.
Exactly. And it's this horrible cycle where kind of the worse service gets, the fewer people take service, the more reductions come. The state has got to step in so we don't end up in this death spiral.
Is there anything people can do? I know Adam talked about how, Philly has done a really good job for advocating for more public transit funding. Is that something that's just in PRT's hands now? Can I get angry at someone?
Yeah, I imagine there's a lot of public advocacy work that's going to happen as the state continues negotiating its next budget. So Pittsburghers for Public Transit, which is a local transit advocacy group here, they have already started a letter writing campaign calling for Pennsylvania lawmakers to boost funding. They've got a link on their site.
Oh, good. They're on it.
We actually talked to their executive director, Laura Chu-Weens, and she said, this is really critical now because what happens now, once stuff gets cut, it is very hard to ever bring it back.
If these proposed cuts and fare increases go through, it's not certain that there's much of a transit system left to save or that we will be able to recover from it.
So yeah, letter writing campaign, contacting lawmakers. And then also the PRT board is expected to approve a public comment period on all of these proposed changes that would go from March 31st to June 18th with 3 public hearings. So it looks on their site like they've already got one scheduled for Tuesday, April 29th at the Convention Center. So that's a place that you could show up and make your voice heard. And we will have links to all of this information in our show notes. We're also going to link to the PRT page that lays out all of the proposed service changes so you can see how your bus route, your T-line, the inclines, how all of that will be affected.
Let's pack that convention center.
And just to give you a sense of the timeline, if state lawmakers, if Governor Shapiro don't allot more money and PRT does have to put these changes into effect, they would take place next February.
Yikes, they do cut. I know part of it's building the infrastructure, but the cuts are happening so fast and the bus line redesign was going to take so long. And I guess that's off the table now.
Bus line redesign would get scrapped under this proposal. Actually during the meeting, one of the PRT staffers said a lot of people who'd been working on the bus line redesign project, this project that was about adding capacity, they've now shifted over to a project focused on making cuts. And it's just really unfortunate that this is the direction we're moving in if the state does not step in.
Even if we don't get all the money we're asking for from the state, I hope we get something so these cuts aren't so extreme. I know this is a hard pivot, but we did promise everyone a trivia question, and I still want to do it.
Yeah, lift your mood a little bit.
Yeah, so our trivia is written by the amazing Kevin Gavin. This week, he wrote a bunch of questions to celebrate Women's History Month. So if you like this, there's a lot more on our website at pittsburgh.citycast.com. But the question here right now is about Sophie Masloff. She was the first woman in Pittsburgh to become mayor, still also the only woman in Pittsburgh history to be mayor.
And we have 4 men running in the primary, so not going to have another woman in the next 4 years at least.
Well, Sarah Namarato is county executive, so we still have women in like high positions of power here.
Yeah.
But the question about Masloff's term is about which idea became a huge success after she left office. So this is something that she got a lot of criticism while she was the mayor, but is celebrated now. So I'll give you some multiple choice options.
Thank you.
Hill District housing development. B, a baseball-only ballpark. So like previously, stadiums could be multi-use, more than one sport played there. C, Market Square revitalization, something we're still talking about today. And then D, the privatization of the Pittsburgh Zoo and National Aviary.
This is kind of a tough one because I feel like people are still mourning Three River Stadium, which used to host baseball and football, but people also love Heinz Field and PNC Park. So that's going to be my guess, B, that people are now celebrating the fact that we have not one but 2 stadiums.
And we will reveal our answer after the break.
This episode is sponsored by Babbel. Are you holding back on foreign travel plans this year because you're afraid of the language gap? I'm not, because I have Babbel. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I'm learning Spanish on Babbel, getting ready for a trip to Mexico City. Babbel is the language learning app that gets you talking. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or at whatever pace you choose. Babbel's tips and tools are inspired by the real-life stuff you actually need when communicating. With a focus on conversation, you'll be ready to talk wherever you go. Babbel has given me great lessons on getting directions, ordering in a restaurant, and making plans. And of all the things I'm doing in Mexico City, I'm probably most excited about the soccer game we're going to. So I was excited to learn how to cheer from Babbel. That'll be me you'll hear yelling, "Fuerza Tigres! Fuerza Tigres!" With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting our listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
All right, Sophia, I am dying to know, what idea did people criticize when Sophie Masloff was mayor that they've come around to celebrate?
So you were right. The answer was B, which was a baseball-only ballpark.
Ooh, I promise I did not look this up in advance. When in doubt, go with something sports-related.
That's fair. So Masloff proposed building a dedicated ballpark for the Pirates in 1991. Obviously, that's what we know as PNC Park today, which opened in 2001. So that's 7 years after she left the mayor's office. And, we all love PNC Park now. I'm not even into sports, and I love being there because you get this beautiful view of the skyline and all the rivers.
And of course, they always have really wild twists on Pittsburgh classics. Like this year, they'll be serving a chipped ham empanada. If you want to learn about more of their new offerings, we talked about them on our food show yesterday. We will drop that in our show notes.
And in case anyone is curious, Masloff was acknowledged for her contributions for pitching PNC Park. There's a street near that area that was renamed in her honor.
Well, let's stay with politics for a minute. We have been talking a lot about the mayoral race that's coming up. There's a primary on May 20th, but there are a bunch of other local races that'll be showing up on your ballots this year.
Yeah, Public Source has this really good piece that is just listing everything that's relevant to Pittsburgh. There is a lot more than just mayor. I'm sure we'll be talking about those races more in depth later. But one thing I want to mention now are the city council seats, because these are also really powerful local positions. City councilors can propose and vote on a lot of legislation that touches huge parts of the city. Like, for example, earlier this year, we talked about different proposals for housing and inclusionary zoning.
Yeah, trying to make more affordable housing in the city.
Exactly. And, that was being debated in front of city council. It's still playing out and probably will continue to play out more after this mayoral primary. But when it comes to city council seats, districts 2, 4, 6, and 8 are also all up for election.
Even numbers. And I'm glad you're bringing this up, Sophia, because there is a chance that this year in the primary, none of these city council races will be competitive, which is wild. That hasn't happened for at least 25 years, at least according to reporting in WESA that I saw.
That reporting is really great. WESA explained that there have been a bunch of legal challenges that have been filed. So some of these candidates could get knocked off the ballot, and none of the candidates would have those primary challengers.
Right, if these candidates do in fact get knocked off. So a little background here. If you want to run for office, you need to submit a petition with a list of signatures along with some other paperwork. You've got to get 100 valid signatures to get on the ballot. If those signatures are invalid for some reason, they can get challenged. So, maybe somebody went out to eat in a district where they don't live. They saw somebody say, sign this petition to get someone on a ballot. They gave it a little signature, but they're not actually registered to vote in that district. Their signature does not count.
Right. And that is kind of the main thing that's happening in this situation. So we'll talk District 2. That's currently being represented by Teresa Cale Smith. She's announced that she isn't planning to run for re-election. 3 candidates put their name in the ring. One of them is her aide. And, I'm guessing that is kind of Cale Smith's ideal successor. So the 2 other candidates have been challenged by a Democratic committee woman, and one of those challenges was over whether all of the signatures were valid, and then the other challenge was over financial paperwork that supposedly wasn't filed correctly. I'm sure that stuff is really complicated, but also you need to get it right if you're running for public office.
Yeah, and there's also a Republican who's seeking this seat. That person doesn't have a challenger in the primary also. So again, some of these races will get competitive once we get to the general, but the potential to not have any choice in the primary, that has not happened for a while.
One thing that I thought was kind of funny is that for District 4, that seat's currently held by Anthony Coghill. He's running again. He filed his own challenge against the other candidate he'd be competing against in the primary, once again over issues with signatures.
Is that unusual for a candidate to be the one filing a challenge?
Based on the reporting from WSA, that's kind of the feeling I got. You might have someone who supports you challenge for you. But I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of a silly look. Someone being you actually didn't do this right. You can't face me.
Yeah, well, I will be curious to see if these candidates actually do get thrown off of the ballot. So we will definitely keep you posted to let you know whether or not there will be competitive city council races in the May primary.
Absolutely.
And then one more piece of election news I'm following. There is a special election that's happening next week, next Tuesday, that will determine whether Democrats or Republicans control our state house. It's deadlocked right now, 101 to 101. After Rep. Matthew Gergely died in January after a medical emergency. So this is an extremely high-stakes special election because it will determine which party has the tie-breaking vote in our state house.
Right. And a reminder that in the last election, Republicans took a lot of the row offices. So that includes things like Attorney General. So I don't know. This feels pretty big to see whether Democrats get more control at the state level.
Yeah, and this race is happening in the 35th Legislative District, so it covers areas like Homestead, West Mifflin, McKeesport. I feel like Western PA keeps ending up being kind of the determining factor in who controls our state legislature.
Swing state, baby, and I guess we're a swing area. I don't know.
So the candidates for this race, there's Democrat Dan Gogenauer, a police officer and a member of the McKeesport School Board. The Republican candidate is Chuck Davis, who is a fire chief and president of the White Oak Borough Council. And then there's also a libertarian on the ballot named Adam Kita.
So what is it looking like? If the Democrats held the seat before, I'm guessing it looks like it could stay that way. But, that swing state, swing region thing we were talking about, you can never be sure.
Yeah, the AP said it would be a seismic upset if a Republican took the seat. I'm assuming also if the Libertarian on the ballot took the seat.
Oh, that would be, I think, a big surprise for everyone.
Yeah, national media would be descending. This district went to Harris in the last election, and Gergely was a Democrat. So most likely there will still be that slight Democratic majority in the state house, but we will know for sure after the special election takes place.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen Report.
This episode is brought to you by the Nissan Armada Pro 4X. With a twin-turbo V6 engine ready to propel your adventures, up to 8,500 pounds of towing capacity to haul all your favorite toys, and space for 8 passengers, Nissan's most powerful car yet will chew up and spit out anything you throw at it. Learn more about the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada at nissanusa.com. Towing capacity varies by configuration. See Nissan Towing Guide and Owner's Manual for additional information. Always secure cargo.
Okay, Mallory, so what else should people know about Pittsburgh as they're going into the weekend?
Yeah, so the HUD field office in Pittsburgh might be in trouble. The city shared that it could be gutted as part of these cuts that the Trump administration is making. And a reminder that HUD works on really critical things like affordable housing issues, rental assistance, renter protections. They do work to make sure that people can be housed and be housed in safe conditions.
So no housing, no public transit. Bad week for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm sorry that this is all kind of bleak, but it is really important to know about. Mayor Ed Gainey and Rep. Summer Lee hosted a press conference about all of this yesterday. Here's what Lee said we stand to lose if the HUD field office does in fact get cut.
They will make it easier for corporate landlords to exploit renters while forcing working class families into impossible situations. If HUD pulls out, it's our communities, our seniors, our children, our neighbors with disabilities who will pay the price. Folks will face evictions. They'll continue living in unsafe living conditions that go unaddressed. Skyrocketing housing costs will be the norm, and we cannot and will not let that happen.
Yikes. And, when Lee is talking unsafe living conditions, HUD can help people who are living in houses that might be full of mold. They can step in if a landlord isn't fixing heat during the winter and that's broken. Like, all of these things are so critical to being housed in a safe and healthy way.
Yeah, and the HUD office in Pittsburgh has a pretty far reach. It serves people outside of our immediate area. It touches 29 different counties. So a lot of people would be affected by this.
So what is Gainey's plan or Summer Lee's plan, or how can people get angry about this and plug in too?
Yeah, so Gainey really emphasized that people who feel fired up about this should be contacting their Congress people, their senators, and not just calling once, calling over and over again. He suggested 50 times so that legislators really get the message. And he also recommended plugging into this group called 1PA. One of their focuses as an organization is housing justice. We will continue to follow this and see what he himself and other local officials might be doing to try to prevent this.
Absolutely. And I don't want to end the week with all this downer news, so I'm going to leave us.
Please send us into the weekend with something nice, Sophia.
I'll take us somewhere nice, hard pivot, but amusement parks. Yay! Kennywood, Idlewild, and Sandcastle has a new owner. Dollywood. Well, like the company that runs Dollywood, technically. They're called Hershend.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Dollywood is not like taking over. But
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed.
Wow, hot take. But Hershend, this, like I said, really big company, they run a ton of other theme parks, amusement parks. But I think the most recognizable name for people would definitely be Dollywood. Have you been before?
I have not. It's on my personal pilgrimage list, but I have never made it.
Okay, I have been to Pigeon Forge, but I just didn't want to pay to get into Dollywood. I just spent my time running up and down the streets into little souvenir shops. But maybe I should, because the people of Pittsburgh Reddit are super happy about this. They are saying that they love Dollywood. Dollywood is great. They are excited to see what the owner of Dollywood could do to improve Kennywood.
I do have a pro tip for anyone who loves Dolly Parton but doesn't want to pay or doesn't want to travel to go to Dollywood, her theme park, because I actually snagged tickets to this very early. The Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra is putting on a Dolly Parton concert this summer.
Oh, fun.
This is not sponsored. I just legitimately am really excited for this Dolly Parton Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra crossover. So yeah, my Dolly fans out there, you don't need to go to Dollywood to get to experience her in all her glory or in some form of her glory.
That's awesome. Maybe go to Kennywood first, see if anything's changed. Probably not that quickly. But Kennywood opens up on April 12th, 412 Day. That's super cute. But the steel curtain is still going to be closed when it opens, but it is supposed to open sometime this year. People were also making jokes like maybe these new owners will be the ones that, get the steel curtain up and running.
Most beloved roller coaster at the park.
Absolutely. I still haven't ridden it. I really want to. So whoever gets it open for me, they get a +1.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Our music is by Benji. Megan Harris is our usual host. Sophia Lo, Adam Sage, and Elizabeth Kama produced the show this week. Francesca DeBecco writes our newsletter. Kevin Gavin is our trivia master. And I'm the team's executive producer, Mallory Falk. We will be back on Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend.
I saw Elizabeth pop up.